I met Derek at a corporate networking event 5 years ago. I was 25, ambitious, and, I'll be completely honest, broke. Fresh out of grad school with mountains of student debt, and a fancy degree that wasn't yet paying off. He was 34, already established in his career, confident in that way that comes with financial security. The first thing I noticed wasn't his looks, though he was handsome enough, but his watch. A Rolex Submariner that probably cost more than my car. When he offered to buy me a drink, I calculated the free cocktail against my dwindling bank account and said yes. I didn't plan to use him for his money. At least, that's what I told myself. But I won't lie to you, Reddit, his wealth was the main attraction. After 3 dates in restaurants I could never afford, weekend getaways to places I'd only seen on Instagram, and gifts that made my roommates gasp, I was hooked. Not on him, but on the lifestyle. Derek was generous to a fault. He paid for everything without hesitation or complaint. Designer clothes, luxury vacations, my portion of rent when I came up short, which was often. For my 26th birthday, he bought me a car. Not a used Toyota, but a brand new Audi. When I moved into a better apartment, he covered the security deposit as a housewarming gift. I became accustomed to brunches that cost $200, bottles of wine that weren't on sale, and never checking price tags. My friends started calling me the lucky one. My parents adored him, naturally. My mother would constantly whisper, "Don't let this one get away," whenever he stepped out of earshot. Was I in love with Derek? I thought so at the time. He was kind, stable, reasonably attractive, and we rarely fought. But looking back now, I was in love with what he provided. The lifestyle, the security, the envy in people's eyes when we walked into a room. I did try to be a good girlfriend in other ways. I was attentive. I remembered his favorite foods. I got along with his friends. I even convinced myself that what we had was real and meaningful. But there was always this calculation running in the background of my mind. How much would this cost me if I had to pay? The answer was always, more than I could afford. Derek never seemed to mind, or notice. He'd wave away my occasional, half-hearted offers to pay with a smile and his signature phrase, "It's just money." That's how the wealthy talk about it, I've noticed. Just money. As if it's something trivial, not the difference between anxiety and peace. For 5 years, I lived in a financial bubble of his making. I never had to worry about bills. I traveled to 14 countries. My closet filled with clothes I wore once or twice. I dined at restaurants with month-long waiting lists. And the whole time, a small voice in the back of my mind whispered that it couldn't last forever. That I was playing a role. That eventually, I'd have to pay the price for all this luxury one way or another. I just didn't know how high that price would be. It happened gradually, then suddenly, like most relationship endings, I suppose. In our 4th year together, I landed my dream job at a prestigious marketing firm. The salary was good, not Derek-level good, but enough that I could finally breathe on my own. Something shifted in me with that first real paycheck. A small taste of independence that I hadn't realized I was missing. Meanwhile, Derek started talking about marriage, kids, our future together. He wanted me to quit my new job, saying I didn't need to work. That we could move to a bigger house in the suburbs. That he could take care of everything. 5 years ago, those words would have been music to my ears. But now they sounded like a cage door closing. I started finding excuses to work late, to skip weekend trips to his parents' lake house, to avoid conversations about engagement rings. I began to notice things about Derek that had always been there, but I'd chosen to ignore. The way he spoke condescendingly to waitstaff. How his jokes often came at someone else's expense. His assumption that his preferences should automatically be mine. The constant reminders of how much things cost, not because he couldn't afford them, but because he wanted me to know what he was spending on me. Was it fair of me to suddenly hold these things against him? Probably not. But once I saw them, I couldn't unsee them. The golden haze that had surrounded our relationship for years was dissipating, revealing a man I didn't actually like very much. The more I pulled away, the more Derek tried to buy my affection back. More expensive gifts. A surprise vacation to Bali. A down payment for a luxury condo he put in both our names, even though I told him I wasn't ready for that commitment. "You're being ungrateful," he told me during one argument. "Do you know how many women would kill to be in your position?" Perhaps he was right. Perhaps I was ungrateful. But his words confirmed what I'd been trying to deny, that our relationship had always been a transaction. His money for my company, my attention, my body. I felt both guilty and trapped. The breaking point came at his company's holiday party last December. I overheard him talking to a colleague, laughing about how he trained me well, how I was high maintenance but worth every penny. How he was finally getting his investments worth, now that we were moving in together. I confronted him in the car on the way home. The argument was ugly. Things were said that couldn't be unsaid. I told him I wasn't his possession, that I'd never asked for all the things he'd given me, a lie, that I wanted more than to be his trophy girlfriend. True. You weren't complaining when I was paying your rent, he shot back, or buying your clothes, or funding your lifestyle. I moved out the next day, taking only what I had brought into the relationship and leaving behind the designer wardrobe, the jewelry, the keycards to our condo. My pride wouldn't let me take anything else, though legally some of it was mine. I found a small apartment I could afford on my own salary. I furnished it with IKEA instead of West Elm. I started cooking at home instead of ordering takeout. I deleted my food delivery apps and calculated budgets. I canceled subscriptions to services I'd forgotten I even had. For the first time in 5 years, I was standing on my own 2 feet. I was proud of myself in theory. Independent, in theory. But in reality, I was miserable. Not because I missed Derek, the person, but because I missed Derek, the ATM. I missed the lifestyle. I missed the ease. It's been 6 months since I left Derek. 6 months of living within my means. 6 months of coming face to face with the woman I really am. The first time I went grocery shopping alone, I nearly had a panic attack in the wine aisle. I stood frozen, staring at price tags, calculating what I could afford. The $12 bottle that used to be my cheap option was now a splurge. I left with a $6 bottle and cried in my car. I canceled my gym membership at the luxury fitness club Derek had insisted on. Now I run in the park for free and follow YouTube workout videos in my living room. I used to think people who did that were just being cheap. Now I understand they were being realistic. Last month, my car needed repairs, $2,200 worth. I had to dip into my meager savings and eat ramen for 2 weeks to recover financially. In the past, Derek would have handed over his credit card without blinking. The mechanic asked if I wanted to set up a payment plan. I felt humiliated. My friends have mostly stopped inviting me to dinners and weekend trips. I've declined too many times, always with the same excuse. I can't afford it right now. Some of them understood. Others drifted away. I wonder if they were ever really friends with me, or just friends with a version of me that could say yes to everything. I've been on a few dates since Derek. Coffee dates, not dinner at Michelin-starred restaurants. One guy suggested splitting the check, and I found myself irrationally angry at him. I realized later I was angry at myself for expecting to be treated the way Derek had treated me, for still feeling entitled to luxury I hadn't earned. Yesterday, I saw Derek's sister at a department store. I was returning a dress I bought on impulse because I realized I couldn't justify the expense. She was buying several items without even checking the price tags. We made awkward small talk. She mentioned Derek as dating someone new already, younger, prettier, probably more grateful for his generosity than I ever was. I should feel relieved. I should wish them well. Instead, I felt a stab of jealousy, so intense it took my breath away. Not because I want Derek back. I truly don't like him as a person. But because some other woman is now enjoying the lifestyle I gave up. The truth is humiliating to admit, even anonymously to strangers on the internet. I miss being a kept woman. I miss the ease of it. I miss never having to check my bank balance before making a purchase. I miss saying yes without hesitation. I miss luxury as a baseline, not a rare treat. I've come to realize how expensive my tastes are, tastes I developed on someone else's dime. I can't afford the woman I became with Derek. My salary, while good, can't support the lifestyle I grew accustomed to. The realization is both sobering and shameful. Sometimes I dream about texting Derek, about manufacturing a chance encounter where we could reconnect. I wonder if he would take me back. If I could swallow my pride and my newfound independence for the comfort of financial security again. I haven't done it. I hope I never will. But the temptation is there, a whisper in the back of my mind whenever I have to say no to something I want, whenever I check my dwindling bank account at the end of the month. This is my confession, Reddit. I used a man for his money for 5 years. I left when I convinced myself I wanted more than that. And now I'm facing the consequences of my choices and the person I allowed myself to become. They say it takes half the time you were in a relationship to get over it. I'm only 6 months into my 2.5 years of recovery. I hope by the end of it, I'll have learned to live within my means, to find joy in simplicity, to value myself for more than what I can consume.